Yeah, we're live now. Welcome back, guys, to a brand new live stream on the channel. Today, we have a very special guest. Dan, how you been, my friend?
Yeah, good man. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, I mean, we did an AMA. I think it was sometime last year. I think it was
Did
around September.
two. Yeah. So we did one pretty early on, probably around this
Oh
time
yeah, actually, yeah.
last year,
That
and then
one
we
was
did
a
a
that one was a private one, I think. I didn't release
okay,
that one
okay.
on YouTube. That one was a private one, and then we did the one on YouTube afterwards, I think. But it's good to see you though. How you been?
Yeah, good man. Busy. It's crazy that it's been over a year now since we've been launched Token, and coming up on almost 2 years of actually building this thing. So it's not getting any easier, despite all these AI tools, and despite literally having my replica answering like loads of stuff for me. I think I'm just that typical kind of founders always going to just pick up more work, no matter how many conveniences I add in and how many team members we bring in. So it's just still pretty relentless, still morning, day, and night, cracking the whip and getting shit done.
Yeah, I mean, you guys' replicas are getting really good. I mean, that one time when I DM'd you, and I think you answered, but we didn't know until like 3, 4 days later when you actually replied saying, "Oh, that wasn't even me. That was my replica." It was just,
Yeah.
that's how you know that the tech is getting really good at this point.
Yeah. So, I've got the ability to turn it onto autopilot on Telegram, so I can have it just answering my telegrams if I want to, and I have it drafting all my emails. So any email that I have come in, it means I only have to check my emails like twice a day now, and any basically when I do check it, I barely even look at the inbox. Just go straight to my draft messages, and all the drafts are written out for me in a way that I would write it if I had more time. So it's some of these little features, some of the things that the team has actually built over the past I guess year, but definitely year and a half, could literally in themselves be like really good products and businesses, but because they form part of this like longer, bigger
Yeah.
strategy, we're still working towards that. But it really is amazing to see like some of the quality of what we've actually built, and just surprise ourselves pretty much every day with like how good it is, and how good it will be.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've tried making a replica, but I haven't really got around. But I am gonna try and make one because I know you guys are integrated with Discord as well recently, right?
Yeah. So I mean, let's get one set up for you so we can create.
Yeah.
Now with our chatbots, essentially what you can do is you create a replica, but either based on yourself or based on a character or some kind of like brand persona. It could be based on a channel. You can train it on your YouTube videos. You can train it on docs and websites you scrape.
Yeah.
You train a bit on your personality, and then once you're happy with the training, essentially you create a Discord bot. So this could be sitting in your channels, in your community. You can have it in Telegram as a bot as well, or on your website as a widget. So this basically helps like customer service, sales, community engagement, community management. And something we released actually last month is the ability for it to post for you on Twitter. It's a little bit,
Oh.
a little bit buggy right now. Twitter's algorithm is is a bit difficult, but I mean, if you have a look at any of my personal tweets from the past 2 months, I can't remember having looked at my own Twitter for a very
Oh,
long
really?
time.
So you don't really tweet those yourself?
It's all my
I didn't
replica.
even know that.
Yeah,
I didn't even know.
exactly. That's what we like to hear. We like to hear that I didn't know it's not you.
Because it's always like he's always talking about because obviously I follow you, so I see, there's always having some sort of conversation about AI itself and how it's developing and stuff. So I thought it was you, you know.
No, my replica is taking over more and more of my life. So it's really useful, and we're getting starting to see quite a lot of customers come through. Started putting out like some pretty effective Google or LinkedIn ads now, and we're seeing a lot of traffic coming in to actually. So we've got a load of replicas on the platform created, right? You've got like something like 50,000 replicas created
Yeah.
on the free plan. So there's a huge chunk of people who have actually created accounts and created replicas to start off with, and then now that we can actually enable these chatbots for Telegram and Discord and for websites as a widget, as almost a sales tool, we're starting, and because the adverts are pushing for that, we're starting to see a lot more traffic coming through of people wanting this as a useful tool for them, for their businesses, for them as
I mean,
individuals.
this one specifically, I think, is very, very useful. This one right here, the CV one, especially for big businesses like, tens of thousands of CV applications. I think this will help them out massively, I think.
Yeah, so this one's great. So this one's actually built by our head of HR, Alessandro, and he created a replica of himself to help him with, essentially, fielding out some of the interviews. And he's trained it in a way that it knows what jobs we have and what we're looking for. It knows what type of like personality traits we look for in new employees. And I think last month it interviewed like 50,000 candidates, which is crazy. Like, okay, it was a bit overly explosive, that one, but it did the job, right? People had to interview it to be given the next, like, basically they had to go through that process. And if they convinced the replica enough that they were the right candidate, then it would give them the form or the Calendly link or whatever it was, the next step to have a proper interview. So it had 50,000 interviews and, whittled that down to, a good selection of really high quality candidates that actually went to the HR team properly. So yeah, that's, this is kind of coming back to what I was saying about how, we build so many just cool things that would be just great products just as standalone things by themselves. That it's going to take any of these to really kind of like take off and off it goes. But that was definitely one that's like we were all shocked because we were looking at some statistics about which replicas were getting used the most, and we saw this massive spike on Alessandro's. And
that's the one that I found interesting as well. For that's that's a product that can be used in Web2 as well, not just in Web3. And a lot of companies would like stuff like that, because it saves them a lot of time.
Yep, no, exactly. So, it's nice. That one's a good one for actual recruitment. And then we're actually working towards now as probably the big the big product for us for enterprise customers and B2B and even for governments is actually for us to create this kind of knowledge transfer system. So in basically any large company organization, definitely most big enterprises, right? Typically like when people retire or they leave a company for another reason, typically the handover is done, very, very badly. And, you usually either get like a handover document and it can just be like a page, or someone could be super thorough with it and they end up writing, a really in-depth document. But the problem is, if it's a small document, it's not that useful. If it's a big, long document, no one's going to read it. So what we realized is actually like all organizations have this issue with, their knowledge management when it comes to key people in their teams, and how if they're, retiring, especially on like, big sort of traditional Web2 companies and just traditional companies and even governments, they have a huge amount of baby boomers retiring in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And so there's basically a huge opportunity to actually capture a lot of that knowledge they have, their jobs, their clients, their customers, their team, their projects. And there's no easy way right now to actually capture that. With the Sensay built already, we can actually create a slightly lighter, even lighter version of what we do already to capture some of that know-how, that sort of tacit knowledge, that industrial knowledge, and make it available, not even in a personalized replica style format, but just as in a kind of interactive knowledge base that the companies can have access to afterwards. So that can be used for training of new employees. It can be just available for teams if they're ever unsure about a particular person or a project or a team, or something that they need access to from technology from like years ago, different systems. And so by making that available in a really interactive format, instead of just having to search through super long documents and having to have the person write out long documents in the first place, just becomes this like incredible way of capturing that knowledge and then actually making it useful to companies going forward, so it's not lost and it's actually available and they can still leverage that knowledge for their teams.
Yeah, that's well said, Dan. I got another question here from one of the regulars. What are the key milestones for the company to meet this year? And I don't think you guys really have many competitors. I don't think. I haven't seen many in the crypto space, at least. There's probably, I don't know if there's some in the Web2 space, but
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a few around. So start with compare. I guess in the Web3 space, there's Twin Protocol, which is one of the Singularity
Oh, the AGIX
Nets
one, yeah.
projects. And yeah, so it's one of their ones. Then in Web2, you've got like Delphi and Personal AI, which are building virtual humans as well, similar way. I'm sure there's a few more now. And
Yeah.
then on the knowledge management side, you're looking at like there's plenty of chatbots there now. The not personalization. And then on the knowledge management side, you might be looking at like I don't know, IBM Watson or Glean or Guru as some competitors. So that's out there. Milestones for the rest of this year. So we just updated our product strategy.
I think, yeah, I
Right
think
now,
I've seen that actually. Let me see if I can find it.
it was probably on our blog somewhere, but yeah, we sent it out recently. But yeah, so essentially, right now we're heavily focused on making the chatbot and the widget specifically for sales and customer service as good as it can be. This like really high powered personalized chatbot and widget. So this just makes it useful for that, like I said, sales, customer service, community management, and engagement. So that's the big focus for the team right now. At the same time, we're really validating this idea around knowledge transfer and capture. So this is the one for the enterprise clients, and we think that will go very well. So it's about validating the idea. It's about understanding the price point that it can be charged, and also how the overall pricing structure would work for that. And then once that's validated, we should be able to get on a couple of pilot partners and design partners to do that. And at which point we will most likely, which should be big names. I mean, we can get some pretty decent enterprise size customers to actually help to launch pilot programs with. So that'd be good for, obviously promotion and talking about some of the big customers that we'll be working with. And then following that, we're most likely going to be doing essentially I guess a fundraise later this year on an equity raise, which will be another big step in the right direction for us, bringing on big financial institutions
VCs.
and VCs as partners. So finding the right VCs, we'll be looking for somewhere between three to five or 3 to 6 VCs to come in and support us through the next few steps of our goals, which are largely around marketing, distribution, and adoption.
The VCs, do you guys reach out to them? So, like, for example, I know there's quite a lot of VCs in the crypto space, but I'm sure there's probably ones that are good for AI and or specialize in AI. Do you guys have to reach out to them, or have you already had VCs already hitting you up for partnerships?
Yeah, a bit of both. So we definitely we try not to reach out too much specifically, because reaching out usually it's cold outreach and people don't respond too well to that. So we try and find any kind of warm introductions we can. So right now we're at the stage of networking, because it's too early to actually go out and do the fundraising. But right now we are just networking with different VCs around the world and seeing who's out there, seeing what they're really looking for. So a lot of networking. So yes, I mean, it's kind of a bit of both, right? We're looking for VCs and they're looking for interesting startups. Then it's finding the right VCs. You're right, the ones that support us both, at the Web3 side or the AI side, and which ones will be able to support us in the next let's say 3, 4, 5, 10, even 10 years of what we're doing. So ones that see the bigger goal, because obviously we're thinking a few steps ahead here. We've got what we've got now with the widget and the chatbots, what we are looking to do with this knowledge transfer, and then beyond that, which is this like full we've got this massive plan about like how we can actually recreate virtual humans, and what will actually go into that. And it's a big complicated mess of what we actually have to do, but it's gonna have to find the right partners who believe in what we're doing and that we can get there. And that will open doors to potential customers. It will open doors to other things like speaking engagements, extra PR, an extra boost for everything, really. Just good announcements. Like if you get a good big name VC on board, whether it's Web3 or whether it's Web2 VC, that's good for obviously good for us. It's good. It's a big announcement, and then that shows a big level of support behind people who are very analytical about this type of company and this type of investment. And so that will support everything we do, both the company, distribution, marketing, sales, and obviously help push token a bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, being he said he's a recruiter, and the use case for Sensay industry is awesome. I mean, you guys can go into so many different industries. I mean, it's actually crazy because you can go into gaming with building NPCs. You can go into education. Just I think there's so many sectors you guys can actually expand into. I think the bigger your team gets, the more I think the more backing you get as well. I think the larger you guys can actually scale out.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, this is actually one of the other things that we've had as a big development over the last, I guess, 6 months, is that we launched our API, and the API is there essentially because we realized that you're right. This can be applied to so many different industries. It can be applied to gaming, healthcare, education, job hunting, networking, afterlife and grief tech. It can be used for influencer marketing and brand promotion. So there's so many different ways that this technology can actually be applied, and we've got a big list of like 50 different verticals that it could be used for. So we created the API with the goal of running a series of hackathons. So we have a hackathon right now with Dora Hacks, and this is essentially the idea is to create these hackathons with good sized prizes. So we have like a $10,000 prize for the hackathon to encourage builders to build solutions on top of Sensay using our API, because any use of the Sensay API is going to be good for Sensay and as a whole, because it's going to show usage, it's going to drive numbers, it's going to drive sales and profitability. So if we essentially, because any of these niches, right, are big niches, so we want to encourage the use of the creation of these different verticals by different builders and different teams, and we want to reward them for doing so. And then going forward, we want to support them to make a success of that, because their success becomes our success.
Someone asked, how was the event in Qatar? I don't think you actually personally went to that one, did you? You went to the real one, did?
Yeah, so we're kind of, so the team's obviously getting quite big now. We've got I think 50 people plus our advisors. And so we kind of like different events that we should be going to, things like Web Summit and some of the big tech conferences around the world kind of get divided up between us. So I mean, I happen to be in Europe right now, but typically I'm based in the Americas now. So I handle the American events. I handle anything that's in Mexico or Colombia or Brazil or Argentina, and then we've got the majority of our teams in Europe, so they will handle the any European events. So anything in London or Germany, or even to an extent over to Qatar and Dubai. And then we've got a few other people and a couple of the co-founders in Asia. So they're based in Thailand. So they'll do Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand events. So it's quite good because it means that we're not flying around the world. We're not like killing ourselves trying to go to everything. And then we can divide up the events. So yeah, I didn't go to the Qatar one. We had our BD and sales team there, which was great, with one of the co-founders. And I did Web Summit in Rio recently, and quite a lot of different US events. So I did like ETH Denver, I did South by Southwest, and then Web Summit in Rio, and a few other events.
Was ETH Denver really dead? Because I heard it was like no one was there. Is that true? Was it packed?
It was. It's weird because it's such a big venue. It's the right size for it, but it still had a lot of people. I think what they probably meant was not so much like it's not so much like it was dead in terms of people, because it was obviously there's still people there, but it was definitely dead in terms of like ideas. And actually, it was actually quite sad to see, because ETH Denver is usually quite creative. It's usually got quite a lot of new innovations, but this time it just felt like people kind of just given up. Like none of the sort of projects that were there even 2 years ago were there. Maybe one or two of them, but everything was new projects. Everyone had just completely like pivoted to AI, and it was a whole bunch of new L1s, which it's actually quite funny. I mean, because look, obviously, if you've been in space for a while, you know that we started off with L1s and people trying to do alternative Bitcoins. You start with like Bitcoin, and you go to like Litecoin, then you go to even Dogecoin. And that was before Ethereum really sort of started taking off as this whole idea of ecosystems and smart contracts and building on top of an actual on top of a layer one to actually build out different applications and different use case utilities. And then we went through to the whole L2 phase, BNB chain, Avalanche, and then that kind of exploded into its own thing, right? So there was all of a sudden there were so many L2s. And then suddenly L3s came about, and then there was the talk of like L4s, and then there was like modular and zk sync, and all these different versions of L2s and L3s that were coming out. And somehow we've now gone back to L1s again. So it's very strange. Like it felt like there was no new ideas. It felt like the energy and the developers and the smartest people who were there previously had kind of given up, but like not really given up in the way that they just realized that what's the point of trying to build actual technology when you can just launch a meme coin or a layer one, which in my mind is basically the same.
Basically, yeah, it's the same thing, to be honest. I mean, everyone's kind of pivoted to AI now because that's what the trend is. I mean, that's the thing though. Like, you see projects that are actually building something, but their token gets no love, so they kind of have to pivot. And then most of these coins don't actually generate any revenue, and that's the issue. If they don't generate revenue from the product, they kind of have to kind of pivot to the latest trend, and that's why everyone kind of
that is actually where like you are now seeing a lot of the bigger projects that have survived 4, 5, 6 years actually now really starting to focus on common sense business applications. So all of the old L2s are now starting to actually try and like get some really good enterprise and national contracts as common sense business to build like internal use blockchains that you see. Obviously Ripple and Circle doing very well, making starting to make some really big deals around the world for actual infrastructure. So you do start to see like these sort of bigger blockchain, more established blockchain companies, both that are very much Web 2 or slightly sort of kind of like half and half Web 2, Web 3, actually making these big deals and common sense business moves and actually generating actual revenue now. And at the same time, you also see just adoption up. You've seen obviously the president of the United States launch a meme coin. You've seen national reserves being created from different countries and huge companies starting to build up reserves of crypto. So the common sense indicators are there, even if the sort of like day to day for the average person is still a bit rough, and it doesn't seem like there's that many applications being built at the sort of like lower end. But I mean, adoption's up is crazy. You got entire countries who basically rely on crypto and just using even something like Binance as a way of paying their phone bills and their utility bills and actually just transacting with each other. So it's amazing to see like there are aspects of crypto that are moving in the right direction, but at the same time that sort of individual builder energy and small teams and the creative side and the sort of talent seems to have kind of like just dried up a bit.
Yeah, I got another question here, and I think you can probably answer this fairly quickly. But when these replicas do interviews, how does the information gathered actually reach back? I think they're recorded or something. Is that probably the easiest way to say it?
Yeah, so the replica doesn't do it over like a voice or a video, so it is over a chat. And we have chat. We're actually working on making this better. So the chat history is possible for the creator to see, and so you can pull up the chat history from with them or with a particular user. So that will get better. Right now, that's a bit clunky and ugly, but it will get better. But it's less about that. It's more about having something that kind of like filters people down a bit, right? Because obviously, if you put a job advert out, for example, you see lots of people will see it, like tens of thousands of people will see it, and they may apply, and then your HR person's basically got to just sift through that to try and find decent candidates, which is a bit of a challenge. So by forcing them to basically interact with this replica first, you are first of all, just by giving them something to do, you eliminate a lot of people straight away. And then by making the replica in a way that will only kind of give the next step if they pass a certain few like tests, essentially, what in the conversation, then you make it so that, you know, by the time they actually come to the next step with the real HR person, you don't really need to see the conversation before to know that the person has, you know, actually done the task and spoken to the replica for a bit and convinced it to give them the link. So you know that they have, you know, they've already done that. And it's actually not so much about our side knowing about the conversation between the person and the replica. And it's actually more about the candidate learning about the company as well. So, you know, you have that interview, that interaction where the candidate can actually learn literally what we're doing by interacting with the replica, to see, you know, what it is. And if they're still interested afterwards, that becomes very, very obvious when they come to the interviews with us. It's great for me. Like, you know, after that goes through our HR, they usually get told, you know, candidates are usually asked to chat to my replica. And the nice thing about that is, like, they come to interviews with me really, you know, really positive. They're really happy to have like spoken to me, and they know a little bit about me. They can ask me about, like, you know, some of the travels. They ask me about the work, or they already know about me and the company, and they already have that personal relationship with me. And it's like a really nice way of seeing that, and seeing that people have actually, you know, taken the time to get to know me before actually talking to me, which is
like this guy
kind
here
of weird,
said,
but very good.
I think this guy said the same thing. I mean, I spoke to your AI agent about a Prius and Venezuela. Happy to know about my cultures.
Yeah, Raphael, my girlfriend's actually from Venezuela, so we go back there every so often. And yeah, big fan of her rappers for sure, and big fan of Venezuela. It's a shame that the US treats it so badly and has caused it so many problems. So, you know, very much looking forward for that to change, because once it opens up, it will be one of the truly remarkable places for travel and holidays, because it has some of the possibly the best beaches in the world, and just some of the most beautiful, like, sort of landscapes. So yeah, it's a shame it's kind of like, you know, locked off away under sanctions. But anyway, always happy for people to actually chat to my replica and get to know things about me like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits, to be fair. I mean, you kind of find out, even if you're not active with the CEO, you can actually kind of speak to him, you know, through the replica, because you've trained that with your own data anyway. So, Sal, I appreciate the 20, my friend. Hold on. Let's see. I think there was another question here that was quite interesting. This one right here. How are you guys trying to manage the replicas to be ethical? Ethics and AI is a huge hot topic. I do agree with that, to be fair. I mean, that's a good question.
Yeah. Am I able to share a screen with this?
I think you should be able to. Let me just double check. Should be able to. Can you go on if I stop my sharing
no, I can hit present. Yeah, maybe if it's I can
try it, and I think it'll probably pull up for me as well. Yeah, click present. Let me give you some hold on.
Yeah, how's this? This is coming through?
At stage, hold on. Let me just remove mine, and then we can add yours to stage.
There we go. Right, so this is basically like because obviously we talk about what we're building being quite complicated on the whole, and we wanted to visualize this, and so this is actually an early draft. It needs to be designed a bit better, but I'll just kind of walk you guys through this just to give you an idea of, like, you know, what we are actually, what goes into what we're building. So on this end, obviously you've got the creator of the replica. That could be you or me, for example, so the maker. Our studio is where the information that you train your replica on goes into. So this is things like your apps, your like websites you want to scrape, any social media and emails, have like question Q&As, and or your personal views and beliefs. You have files to upload, like docs and notes and photos and videos, and then you have like a human in the loop training, which is like a feedback system, and you add your personal style, your voice, and your video. Right, so that's the data that goes into Sensay at a very basic level. And by the way, this is the simplified version. The complicated version is this one, which is a lot.
A lot of people don't understand that one.
Yeah. So then what happens is it goes into what we call our wisdom engine, and this is really the the unique part of what we built for Sensay that combines that data along with the technology and everything else. So we've got the tech stack, which is part of blockchain on the infrastructure. We've got
MCPs,
our encryption, MCPs, different LLMs that go into different aspects of it, and the RAG data storage. Then you've got situational and user awareness. So this is like the understanding that it's talking to you on Telegram and not an email, right? The reasoning behind like how it processes information based on your typical thought processes. Hallucination checker, so it checks itself to make sure that it's not giving out false information. Theory of mind is a bit more conceptual, but it still goes into this. And then, like what you said before, so personality goes into this, wisdom and ethics and morals. So that is definitely a part of it, because we want to. You want to, when you're replicating humans, it's very difficult because there's obviously perceptions around bias and evil and good, and there are very few objective evils out there. People very rarely in history think that they're doing the wrong thing when they are later seen to be doing the wrong thing. And so when we're creating replicas of humans, you kind of want to allow for those personality traits to come through, but at the same time you kind of want to stop short of creating like AI Hitler, right? You don't want to create an actual like dictator. And then the last couple of parts are really like the intent. So this is like the goals behind what your replica is there for, which is actually very important, as well as the knowledge retrieval and memories, and how you separate out memories from secrets. So what should be shared with certain people. That then feeds into the replica, obviously, which can then interact with the users via the chatbot, widgets, voice calls, video calls, or it can be generating social media content and responses, or agentic functions. So this is like calendar management, asset management, which some of these we're still working on, but we will get there. And then the summarizers. So this would be like, if you put your replica into your Discord group, it would send you a daily update type thing as a summarizer. And then that
would be
update,
quite useful.
Yeah, exactly. Then that update would then actually go back into its core training up here, which is the sort of in the loop training. And then there's some licensing revenue opportunities and the actual verification on chain of the similarity between the replica and the person, to the benchmarking. So basically, this is what we're building as a whole. Now we are working towards this, and it's going to take a long time for us to get there. But this is the crux of what Sensay is. So it's a very long-winded way to sort of answer the question, but fundamentally, ethics are a part of this for sure, and we definitely try and think about it a lot to make sure that the replicas can be used in the right way. If, for example, you're talking about creating a replica of someone else without their consent, we have like very quick takedown procedures should anyone complain or highlight that to us. And yeah, so basically it's we try and stay on the right side of things. Obviously, what we're building can be used in a lot of different ways, so there will be challenges that we don't even know yet. So we'll see how that comes around and what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, we definitely think about it. It's definitely an important part of the wisdom engine that we're building to make sure that we are doing the right thing.
We'll get. I'll ask some of the boring questions later, Dan, because just the normal retail questions. I know you probably see them in the chat.
No, it's fine. We can
so I'll do questions towards the end, but there's some quite interesting questions like this one as well. How are you measuring the ROI for companies using digital replicas, and what industries have seen the most surprising adoption? I think that's a good question.
Was that from you?
No, that's from that's the fake crypto G, that one. that's my replica right there.
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to like community management or engagement, sales, customer service, I mean, you basically look at like the cost of this versus the cost of a sales rep, and what extra opportunities it has for you. So, or against the community manager or moderator. So when you're looking at a decent community moderator, just at the very basic level, you're looking like at least 300, 400 a month, maybe even 500, maybe more. And so for essentially a quarter of that price or less, to have something that can literally be online 24/7, respond in any language, and have accurate information that you've trained it on, becomes a really powerful tool. So, it's an opportunity to save costs. It's extra promotion in terms of helping bring in extra sales and clients. So there's definitely an opportunity there to for pretty much any companies, big and small, to really add value there. And with this, that's what the chatbots and widgets alone. And then when we start looking at these enterprise solutions for knowledge management, capture and transfer, we have a really incredible opportunity in the future to basically save companies a huge amount of money just through that knowledge capture and transfer. Because especially the large enterprises, even governments, when someone retires or they leave, if they're a key person, usually they're retained on some kind of like freelancer or consultant retainer,
Yeah.
which can cost a huge amount of money to any company just to have that information still available. So if we can build a system that can do that for $100 and then just charge on the actual cost per use, so suddenly that's a massive saving to every company. So it becomes a really easy way to show the value of the knowledge we can capture, and also the cost saving against other alternatives they might have.
Yeah, this is a good question as well. I find this quite interesting because I want to know how this works myself. I mean, I know a lot of projects partner up with specific like bigger companies, but those big companies actually are the bigger market cap companies, you could say. Do they actually like provide some support for like new starters, or are they just partnerships for like kind of promotion type of thing?
With the ones that on this question with Fetch and
Well, yeah, Fetch, yeah, because I know you guys are partner with Fetch and some of the
yeah.
other bigger ones at least.
Yeah. So again, the space has changed so much in the last year, because there's loads of new projects. I mean, loads of new AI projects, right? And also projects that
Yeah,
you think you're going to work with have changed what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, look, we launched on Base and Arbitrum, and so we
yep,
should be doing more, to be honest with them. And we have been chatting to their ecosystem teams about what more we can be doing with them. And the likes of Fetch, where essentially when I was talking about the agentic functions before, about the
yeah,
actual like calendar management, asset management, because replicas should be able to do things for you. They should be able to have their own wallets. They should be able to make payments. They should be able
yeah,
to actually act on your behalf and do things. So Fetch has still built a very, very good decentralized like AI agent ecosystem, that we're still looking to integrate as one of the providers for that functionality. So we when we pick our partners, a lot of people out there, a lot of projects out there will just launch partnerships for the sake of it, right?
yeah, just for
And I think,
promotion. Yeah,
yeah, for promotion and hype. We try and avoid that as much as possible. We try and pick people that we believe we can work with.
yeah,
It doesn't always pan out, and that's just the way these things go. But we do, for every person and every partner on that list, we do genuinely, um, you know, intend on working with them if we haven't already.
yeah, yeah. I think that's pretty well said then. Um, okay, let's just ask the normal question first of all.
All of them, all the exchanges. No, I think we were here. We were talking about this a bit off camera before we started.
Yeah,
It's very hard to say. Like, we would obviously love any of the tier ones, which would be great. But they require a crazy high amount of volume and a crazy high,
yeah,
amount of like community metrics and stuff like that, which is understandable. I mean, that's obviously everyone wants them, so they got to have some requirements. But the other problem is we can't really talk about it, because even if we had an exchange coming up, we can't talk about it until they would announce. And if we talk about it before they announce, then they probably cancel the listing. So it's actually
yep.
better to not talk about exchanges at all. But like we understand the metrics. The market's been a bit weird the last few months, and so it's yeah, basically it's a work in progress, and we would like to get on some of the big ones, as would everyone. But it just there's a lot of things that are kind of out of our control to
I
get
think
there.
the tier ones are a little bit of that probably maybe the next cycle, but I mean tier twos, tier threes. I think even those are pretty good enough in my
Yeah.
opinion. I don't
I mean,
think
but this
people
is also where we get to the
overestimate it.
stage now. We're getting to the stage now where like people are genuine. Like, I was talking about this, like general adoption and people are getting used to it. So ironically, actually, you start to see a lot more volume coming through dexes. So even though
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
whole
that's also true. Yeah,
and so this whole concept of like, oh, if you get another exchange, it's going to pump your token, doesn't really exist as much anymore, because either the exchanges are playing their own game where they kind of manage to buy up the token before the announcement, so the price is already set
yeah,
in,
yeah,
or
yeah.
something else in the market generally prices things in before that happens. Whereas actually, the vast majority of the volume and awareness comes from other factors now. Like, and also just the actual cost offset is crazy. Like a lot of these exchanges, even at the lower end, I mean, you look at something like MEXC, the cost of listing a token with MEXC alone, and the worst part is, this is even for listing the same token on a different chain, is still minimum $60,000, right? So it's not like,
That's ridiculous. That is, what the hell?
it's just ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous, and people pay it, right? So it's people pay it, but the fact is, like, that's at the sort of like, okay, immediate. That's like at the very bottom of the sort of medium tiers, and that's what the price are, and everything else is up from there. So it's there really has to be common sense when you think about, like, that amount of cash that you are putting into a listing that could be used elsewhere for you know, for anything. And on top of that, you have to provide a certain amount of like liquidity for market making at the same time. So in reality, is for every listing, at a minimum, you're looking at 120 to 150k, like as a minimum, like to actually get a token listed on these exchanges. And that's what people don't quite realize. So when it does come to those, if we're looking at spending, even that at the lower end, it's we
Yeah,
look at that, and that's a lot of developer like power that we could use for building, and or use for marketing, and promotion, and customer acquisition. So it's a really tough decision to make, and I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. But I think that the perception of this whole idea of getting more exchanges is going to be good for everyone is very short-sighted in the way that actually the markets work now.
yeah. I mean, that's the whole concept of like the retail question, is because most people just want their bags pumped in the short term, and
Yeah,
exchanges to do that. 50, 60%, 2x. I mean, you can get exchange listings, but like I think if you go the higher up you go, I can imagine the more expensive it becomes, doesn't it?
it gets crazy. Yeah,
Gets crazy, right? I mean, the tier ones are, I think they're off the table, because again, the tier ones, you need at least 10 million volume, at least. I think probably around those much, and then you probably need some sort of
yeah,
connections there as well. And then to get listed, I
yeah.
think on Binance it costs about a million, a couple million, I think,
At least, yeah, got to
at
be.
least a million. Yeah. How much is
And
Mexi if you list on Mexi just directly? It's
Mexi
cash. That's
listing
it's 50K, right?
is, yeah, 50k plus 10k. So they hide it. They say it's for marketing, right? And they say it's for airdrops and for marketing, but it's bullshit. It's a
It's
listing
bullshit.
fee,
Yeah.
like, because there's no way
Yeah.
not to do that. You can't list without that, right? Sometimes they'll list random projects without it if it's like good enough hype, but yeah, I mean, the vast majority of the time for people trying to list their project on an exchange, it's actually a crazy high expense. So it's it's a very difficult, like, process for, especially for small teams who really want to try and establish themselves and build up from there. But also, yeah, to just to answer this question that obviously comes around a lot, and the main answer is we can't talk about it, and but the second answer is it really is out of our control, and the actual cost of doing it is insane.
Yeah, I do agree with that, to be fair.
I mean, if someone wants to spot us $250,000 to go list on another exchange, sure, I'll take your money, I'll go do it. But if we have to do that, then it's there's a lot of opportunity cost that comes with that.
Yeah, Binance is probably the biggest one, to be fair. That's probably the biggest scam of this cycle.
Um, that's a weird one. I think so. Binance is funny because they obviously, in the previous US administration, they had a lot of trouble, and now that
Yeah, now they're free now.
now suddenly crypto is a lot friendlier.
Yeah, I do agree
For
with
the
that.
US, it's people are starting to ease back into like what they can do, and I think I know OKX for a while were extremely cautious around new listings because they didn't want to end up the same way as CZ
Yeah,
in jail or worse. and Coinbase kind of just sits back happy because they've basically got a monopoly on the US market, and yeah, they've obviously got their own sort of stock price. They've got to be careful about what they do. So they can't necessarily do anything too shady, but they will definitely pump anything on base a lot harder than any other projects, right? So
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
understandable. Base is their chain. They make a lot of money from that as well, and it's a big opportunity for them to leverage their influence to and help certain projects on that chain. But yeah, I mean, they all have their angles, and there's no right answer for any of this.
You know, if a VC, like I know a lot of these exchanges have their own little VC venture capitalists. If they invest into your project, do they still ask you for a listing fee, or is that different to every project?
Oh, great question. I don't know. I imagine they probably still ask you for the listing fee.
Yeah,
I bet they do.
so.
It probably comes with part of the deal that they'll invest in you, but you have to you have to list with them, and you have to pay the listing fee. So basically, it's like they get their money back.
They'll get the money back regardless. To be fair, I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
even if the token's going down, they'll pump it up at some point. So Mavia, the gaming coin, it went down to like 10 cents, and then just randomly within one day just exploded with like over 100 million volume. Just that's VC money. That's not retail money.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's
Yeah,
any
no,
more
it
questions.
is crazy. Like it's but I mean, on the flip side, yeah, obviously, centralized exchanges are still the sort of gateway into the space, and people still do use them a lot. But we are starting to see a bit of a shift over for new projects, especially and this all kind of like ties into the reason that things have changed for the Ethereum ecosystem is just because people realize they can just go into meme coins, shit coins, and launch a project, give it a bit of hype, and not build anything, right?
Yeah,
And
and that's
that is
what it
enough.
is. That's the pump and dump scheme.
Yeah, hey, it works, and it makes people a bit of money, and
It does. Yeah.
fundamentally, it's a bit of fun, right? It's gambling.
Yep.
And that's why the exchanges are listing meme coins. It's why everyone else, because it's gambling, it's attention, and it's hype. So and I saw there's a comment in there somewhere about sex is becoming scammers and just doing the same thing they always did. They're there to make money. They're there to focus on tokens that are making money. So they don't give a crap if you're actually building something or the quality of what you're building. There's no real thought
Yep.
on that. They
Nope.
just support whichever projects have the most attention and volume, so they can capitalize on it.
I think that's what big exchanges look for at the moment, just volume. Every
Yeah, I
time,
mean,
if you have something that's 100 million volume, you're gonna get listed very quickly.
yep, yeah,
I've got another good question actually. This was a good one. This is directly for you then.
nice. How do I feel about the space in crypto? And it's unnecessarily AI hasn't provided. So yeah, AI in crypto. I think crypto needs AI more than AI needs crypto. AI
Yeah.
is obviously super powerful across all different industries, not just blockchain tech. But we're seeing obviously a lot of people realize that in crypto, and so people are pivoting into it, and it will help. Like the easy ones are obviously analysis, right? Like processing billions of lines of code and transactions with AI becomes a lot easier than it was before. So that's going to help, and that does actually help to make blockchain technology more useful, especially in some of the faster chains. So that's where AI and crypto can really fit in. Which if you're using that for yourself to program that into some kind of like revenue generating model or prediction model, then you could probably do quite well out of that. But that would take quite a bit of I guess a mathematical head on you, and a bit of thinking outside the box as to how you'd build the agent and what data it would have access to, and how it would actually be able to interact with that data going forward to be a bit more autonomous for you. So I'm sure people are working on that in general. Again, any way to make easier money is always going to be something that people are
That's gonna be people like
heavily motivated to
yeah.
get into. So yeah, I mean, we will see AI in crypto more and more in the same way we'll see AI more and more in pretty much everything.
Real world, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, AI is going to be great. I mean, for crypto, like and everything else, like AI is just the next step in it. So it's you know,
Wouldn't like a trading bot, like a sort of like a trading agent, wouldn't that be, something like that can produce people revenue? I think that could be one.
yeah. So funny you say that actually. So I have been advising a project recently called Yield Seeker. So Yield Seeker
Yeah.
XYZ. Um, and this basically is kind of an AI thing, but it's like it's an intuitive AI. Where, what you do is you deposit any amount of crypto into it, basically USDC, and
Yep.
you then it then goes and finds the best yields out there and auto updates stuff. So
Oh, I
it's a
think
nice
I've seen
AI
that
for like
actually.
helping to. So I mean, it's
Someone
really
someone
new
told me
and
about that
it's
one.
yeah. Yeah, but the
It's
guys have done a
interesting.
good job. I know them; they're good guys. They actually helped write our code originally for us on the token side,
Okay.
and yeah, it's a really interesting concept. So, happy to support them at this stage. But yeah, it's a nice idea. So that's a nice application for AI. So it saves you having to look around the market and find where the best yields are on your stables or so you can actually have that do that automatically for you. So I think stuff like that's going to be great. 'Cause it's going to automatically do things for you. But with with added money comes added risk. So kind of goes hand in hand. Like I'm not saying that platform is risky, but I'm saying like in general, you
In
know,
general, yeah.
as AI gets developed and it becomes a lot better and more in tune with what's available in crypto, I'm sure we'll start to see more intelligent scams as well.
When are you guys? I know it's on the roadmap, but are you guys planning to update the website as well? Because I think at that time when you guys done I think is it every quarter you guys do that big AMA. I think it was
Yes. So
glimpses of the new website.
it's up. So you've got the snsy.ai site up, which is
Oh,
which is more like a
the main
token
one.
information page.
Oh, okay.
What you need to do is go to the main Sensay page. So that's so sensay.io. So you just type out the full sensay.io and you'll see our sexy new.
Sensay.io.
There
This
we
one right
go.
here.
That's the one. So this is the
Oh,
main site. The other one's more about token information, and this is the one
okay.
where you can see like the chatbot widget there. You can see.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the child. Okay.
so that's where you can interact with my replica, and it will help you with information about the project. And all,
Oh, I thought this was the main website, but this is just specifically for the token. Then I'm guessing.
yeah, it's more about information about the token, so people can understand how the token fits in, what it's going to be used for. We haven't updated in a while. We're probably going to merge the two together and just have this site now.
Yeah, I think one website will probably be a bit better because most
Yeah,
people just click on the first one right here because
yeah.
on coin mark. I think how long does it take for these guys to actually update something? For example, if you want to change the website,
To be fair,
you have to file that
I'd
review, right?
actually forgotten that one is still there listed as that site. So I've actually already pinged it off to the team to go and get that updated.
Yeah, I get that. I think that would be a good update to be honest.
But yeah, Sex new website, Sex new studio. So the whole process for creating a replica is much nicer.
Yeah, this looks a lot more
And
better to be honest.
yeah. It's a lot of
You guys have
information.
the partners over here or the partnership. Oh, this is just okay.
Yeah, oh, you're right. We probably should add the ones
I
in
think you
there.
guys should add
I
the
think
ecosystem or the partnerships in there as well.
yeah, they're in the about section. I think they are there somewhere, but they should be on partners as well.
Team members. Yeah, they're down there. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect. Are you guys planning to do anything with the mini Telegram app?
Yes, I mean it's live and people are interacting with it. It's people are
Yeah,
accumulating
people are
points.
using it.
I would have to check with the marketing guys as to when we're doing reward distribution and snapshot. Sorry, I don't know. I get I get told by them when it's time to announce something and when we have to pay people. So I unfortunately don't have a date on when the actual rewards distribution is going to be. So I imagine soon. I think we do them every few weeks or every month. So
Robot AI.
soon.
Questions. What do you think about this one, Dan? Would you guys ever partner with some robotics companies? I mean, you guys don't really need to, but
For the future, yeah. So, I mean, this is like thinking a bit further ahead, right? So, once
yeah,
we start looking at knowledge management and this whole idea of creating, virtual humans, the next step really is that we can actually have these AI versions of people interacting with the with real people day to day, and the way they can do that is through so you can look at things like and they can actually use to solve some really big issues in the world. You look at the population collapse somewhere like Africa with an aging population, low rates, but if you were able to actually capture a lot of the personalities and the knowledge of the aging population and combine that with robotics, you could actually sustain a much larger older population using this kind of like human AI hybrid approach enabled by robotics to essentially sustain the entire civilization. And funny enough, we're actually this is a bit of a pre spoiler and a bit of yeah, definitely a spoiler, but we're actually, if you go to sensayislands.com,
search that up.
yeah, the full word SENSAY
Island.com.
islands.com. So we're actually
Okay.
building an AI government as a proof of concept. So we're
Oh,
literally
that's
like
interesting.
so having an island and building a building an AI government that's literally like based off some of the greatest political minds in history, so that we can have an AI government that can actually have and see how that goes in comparison against the governments of the world today.
In the world, yeah. That's crazy.
So
That
this is
is.
more of a fun sort of showcase of what we can do, but it's a really nice one to think about, how it could be done. So that's the fun. So yeah, Sensei Island is going to be a fun little project coming for the next few months.
That's an interesting concept. You can do this with pretty much anything,
Yeah,
then. Hello,
in
government.
theory,
Do
yeah,
yeah.
could run a company, could run an entire
Yeah.
nation. Well,
Schools,
and we'll see
whatever.
how the quality is for it. Exactly, yeah. And it'll show the actual quality of what you can do, especially when you can leverage. It's a bit like the one of our advisors puts it the best. He puts it like you think about in the Harry Potter series when Dumbledore's in his office and he's got all the pictures of all the old headmasters around, right? All the headmasters from the previous headmasters, but they're animated, they're live, he can talk to them. So it's a bit like that.
Yeah.
So imagine having these great political figures from history and having replicas of them that you can just bounce ideas off, that you can have as an interaction, that you can have as a sounding board for any of the decisions you're making, and then understand what you should do in any situation based off of the right advisor.
Yeah. I've seen something. I think ASI Alliance, Fetch, and those guys, they did something like that recently, where they had 4 different AI agents, in terms of a little tablet, and they're all just interacting with each other, just talking with each other. I think that's quite interesting as well.
It's fair enough. Sensei merch ship worldwide. Yeah, you can go to shop.sensay.io, and this is where the Sensei store is. So yes, it does ship worldwide. So it's just sensei.io, and it's just shop.
Is the replica still in beta mode, or you guys fully is it fully launched now?
It's called beta, but yeah, it's all live. It's there. You can go
right?
create one, no problem. But yeah, so on shop.sensay.io, you can basically go and buy merch, everything from backpacks, the t-shirts, the hats, sunglasses, loads of stuff. Actually, we've got a lot of really cool stuff. Even Sensei socks.
Sorry, Dan. Yeah, carry on. Sorry, I think you've answered this about 50 times. Have you not? Right here.
How do you guarantee data safety for knowledge you're holding? Yeah, I mean, look, cutting edge encryption. The individual person gets to choose how public or private their replica is, and where the conversations are held. But also just depending on what you're actually training on. But same as anywhere else, really. I mean, all of the the data and knowledge gets stored in much the same way as anywhere that you would put your knowledge and data. So it's it's not shared with anyone. It's not used by any LLMs, and it's not sold to anyone for anything. So it's again sitting on that ethical side of things.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't even realize their data gets used every day and gets sold by all the big tech companies anyway. So
I saw a comment about, is Kim Jong-un one of the leaders of the islands?
yeah,
So it's
that would be a funny one.
so funny enough, actually when I got this idea, I was thinking like, do we do like Kim Jong-il, do we do Hitler and Mussolini and Genghis Khan and the kind of like the bad guys of history,
The bad guys, yeah.
and whether or not that would make for a better government than the good guys.
That's an interesting concept. That's
like who, yeah. So that was it did get brought up and then it got shut down pretty quickly. It would be very funny to do that, but yeah, maybe later after we're a bit more established.
That one has to be a bit private though. I don't think you can do that publicly.
Can you imagine?
That'd be hilarious. People don't like that type of stuff in the crypto space. They get emotional.
Yeah, and any bad news, any sort of like any kind of awareness like that, people get freaked out.
It's
So
an
more and
interesting
more
question, I think.
people create replicas. How confident are you that your system wouldn't be overloaded? Can it handle a massive engagement? Yeah, I mean we build it in a,
I mean,
in a
you guys
modular way.
pretty much got a lot anyways, haven't you?
Yeah, we build it to scale. I mean, same answer with most tech companies. You get more servers, you get more processing power, and you just deal with more data and work with the latest updates. So I don't think we'll be overloaded anytime soon, not even remotely. I don't think that there's going to be any issue in scaling up what we're doing. And if there were some crazy high engagement on it, I guess we get notified pretty quickly if there's any sort of big spikes. But yeah, I mean the whole thing's built to be able to scale up very, very fast. I mean, also
Yeah.
it's good problem to have, Like let's we'll cross that bridge when we get to that one.
Yeah, that's not a bad problem to have at all. You get massive spikes in your yeah, I think that's a good one to have. Yeah, I mean, you guys have already created 500 grand, 500K into replica interactions. So I mean,
yeah, that's daily interaction, so it's crazy. And actually, we need to update these numbers because they're actually a bit lower than they used to. That was what they're up. So
it'll probably peak. It'll probably
add a bit
peak again
more.
when the market gets bullish. I can imagine.
I really need to, but yeah, I need to definitely like put those numbers up to more accurate because it's more like 50,000 replicas created now, so it's gone up a lot.
Are you guys planning to launch some sort of like app for these replicas? I think that'd be quite an interesting one. That would.
Yeah, so we do like internal hackathons for our team like every month. So we let our developers basically come up with ideas. And funny enough, one of the ideas that came out of the last hackathon was actually having the replicas on an iOS and Android app. And he actually built out most of it. So we're actually going through the process of setting up our developer account and probably quite likely to actually have the actual interactive the actual replicas themselves. You still probably have to create them on the web, but to actually interact with them, we could probably move it over to apps as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be quite interesting, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think we can wrap it up then. Is there anything you kind of want people to know, like any interesting stuff that's coming? Wrap it up.
Yeah, honestly, thanks for having us. And yeah, I mean, we'll probably bring out an updated roadmap very soon. The next few months are going to be pretty big for us, both in terms of developing out this idea and also in terms of just driving revenues now, which is always going to help to build the business better and make us more sustainable. The big drivers for the next few months is going to be these big pilot programs with massive enterprises, closing fundraising rounds, and and token wise, I mean, integrating the token more into our reward system. So we've got this cross platform which allows people to participate in our community and our marketing. So we're going to enable the transfer of conversion of points into tokens, and we'll be taking a share of revenue and putting that into buying back tokens continuously.
Yeah, I mean, you probably, I think you bought back quite a lot, haven't you, yourself?
Yeah, I've I've bought loads. So I bought loads and then staked it, so it provided extra liquidity, and
Yeah, that was a good move,
yeah,
that one.
and I continue to buy. I mean, I know most people wouldn't do that. For them, again, talking about the spaces and the sort of state of the space right now. But yeah, I mean, I intend on building this for the rest of my life. So, for me, it really is a sensible thing for me to be doing and building, and that's why I buy the token. It's why I stake the token, provide liquidity for the market in general, and yeah, why I can see the possibilities of what we can do with this and where it can get to, and that's exciting.
One last question. I think this is quite interesting one. I like this question. You think something like that's possible? I've seen quite a few influencers
Used for DeSci, replica influencers that create content would be amazing. Imagine like a replica Mr. Beast. You don't need to spend like a piece that's per video. Yeah, I think that's definitely going to happen anyway. I think with video improvements and stuff, that's going to move a long way in terms of like AI video generation. I was talking to someone about this today. But it's not. I don't know about the DeSci element because I haven't really thought about it, but maybe it's possible. But definitely on the influencer marketing, definitely on influence and brand marketing. So the two examples we always give are, imagine like Taylor Swift and her fan base, and how how her fans would easily pay, for a $5 a month like interactive like app with Taylor Swift bot, right? And to actually talk to it and engage with it and have that sort of more personal relationship with her, for better or worse, right? There's gonna be some very naughty men doing that. Then for sure. But then also on the influence side and the brand influence side, so this is where brand collaborations can come through as well. So you start looking at the idea of, the other example we give is George Clooney as his Nespresso salesman character on the Nespresso website. So imagine, you get met when you arrive at the site. Obviously, we've got the chatbot of me on our homepage, but imagine that was George Clooney's like Nespresso character. And when you're there, you start talking to him, and he's encouraging you to like try certain flavors and try different machines. And I think that's the actual sales cycle and process for that company based off of that brand ambassador and influencer. So I think there's a huge like market for influencer marketing with replicas, and it's it's one we've talked about quite a lot before. Whether or not that then goes on to produce videos for them or something like that. But yeah, definitely on the influencer and brand marketing perspective, there's a lot of opportunity.
Definitely, Dan. Appreciate you once again, Dan, for coming down. Yeah, I think we can wrap this up now.
No worries. Thanks for having us there. Yeah, if anyone's interested to find out more, Sensay.io is a website, or you can find us on any socials at Ask Sensay. Token ticker is SNSY, and myself on any channel at Sensay Dan.
Yeah, let me just pull that up actually. I'll put your stuff in the description anyways then.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. And then actually, I mean, so you'll see like from earlier today. So every week we do community updates and AMAs. So if anyone does have any other direct questions, you can always jump in and watch those and add any questions or comments each week, and we answer them.
Yeah, I think this is very good for the community, that weekly updates.
Yeah, it's nice. It's good fun. We introduce some of our team. We introduce advisors. We introduce like some of the concepts and latest updates, and it's nice. It's nice as a good chance to be able to do that for people.
Yeah, because that's how you build a very solid community. Just regular updates. People love that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, thank you very much for having me.
No problem, Dan. Guys, smash the like. I'll probably be live somewhere on Sunday or something, but hit the likes. Make sure to follow Dan. Check out Sensay. Most of you guys already know what Sensay is anyways. I mean, most of us been following it, holding the token for at least a year now. So, well, I think you guys been out just for a year now. Has it been just over a year?
Yeah, just a year and a month, yeah.
Yeah, so we've probably been holding this for at least a year now.
Nicely up compared to most other tokens that got launched last year.
I would agree, yeah.
Most are all
down.
down.
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, if the thing is like you guys are pretty much out of all the pre-sales anyway, so the only thing that's pretty much left is just ecosystem stuff, and the most of the stuff that really comes from the selling pressure is the early investors, and that's one of the things I really liked about this token was simply because you guys did more or less like a fair launch instead of just VCs and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so everyone was out in 4 months. So if they were going to sell, they would have. The rest is just basically up to the market, which has been a bit obviously crazy the last year, spiking up in like December because of meme coin craze, and then now it's kind of like leveled off a bit, but it should start to actually almost like move in a
Pick back up slowly. Yeah,
it'll be a slow one this time around, but it will still grow, and projects that are building for the long term will be supported.
Yep, definitely. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Hit the likes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.